Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coach-your-PO. All lowercase, all one word. That's bit.ly/coach-your-PO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our TGIF and Product Owner episode this week with Lena Löfdahl. Hi, Lena. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Vasco.
So, Lena, on Fridays, we want to explore the product owner role. We'll end up on a high and talk about a great product owner. But before we get into that, let's dive into the 7 rings of the product owner hell. Or just metaphorically, of course. But what we want really is an example and an anti-pattern that you've seen in the product owner role that you consider potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern.
So this was a junior product owner. He was new in his role, and he had a situation where his management or managers were putting a lot of pressure on him to deliver in his role. So he was being quite stressed out. And sometimes when people are stressed out, they became very short. I think it's a personal trait. And he became very short. And he was asking progress from the individual team members multiple times every day. So like pinging them or just looking over their shoulder. How is the story going? You said you were going to be finished by lunch. Now it's 1:00. What's going on? And he made them both nervous, because, it's nervous having your product owners hanging over you, looking at your screen and asking, how is it going? But also unfocused, because he was interrupting them like in the middle they were thinking about something. So actually what he did was he was basically delaying the delivery even more by being nervous and putting pressure on the team members. And I decided we cannot continue like this. We need to give the team some peace and quiet to actually work. So I put him into a room, gave him a cup of coffee and asked him, okay, so what are you doing? Because you are now being my number one impediment to this team.
Did you actually say that?
Yes,
like straight to, oh my God, that must not have been easy for that product owner.
Oh, no, he took it quite well. I have to say he was a little bit surprised about my very blunt statement, but at least he got him reacting. Because then he was, I said it with a smile on my face. It's not so confrontational. Just gave him some coffee, patted him on his back and told him, you're number one impediment now. But then he confessed, or he talked about he's getting a lot of pressure. He doesn't know what to do. He was super worried about the delivery and he's going to be held responsible if we don't deliver and so on. But I told him, what he's doing is not helping the team. So if you want to help the team, you use your energy to make sure that the developers have all the information they need in order to deliver. So instead of asking how it's going, he started asking, do you need anything more? Is the requirement clear? Do you understand what you should do? And that actually made, he was hunting for a lot of unclear stuff in the end. So it kept him busy with that while the developers were actually developing his stories.
That's actually a great point, right? I don't know. Of course, there's been 400 episodes by now, so I don't remember is probably the right way to say it. I don't remember if we've ever mentioned it here on the podcast, but just providing the PO with a different set of questions to ask can totally transform their relationship with the team.
Mm-hmm. It did. And also, I gave him something to do that he felt like this is useful for the team. I'm actually helping the team to deliver by providing them with the right information. And also the the developers got some peace and quiet to actually do their work. So it was a win-win. And I think I have to say, he actually apologized to the teams like a few weeks later for his behavior, but they forgave him. So that was good.
One of the other things is like how you talked with the product owner might not be possible in all cultures and all contexts, but suggesting, hey, how about if we ask the team these questions instead? And of course, that helps the product owner have the language tools to communicate with the team, get that interaction they want, but in a way that is productive for both PO and the team. Because at the end of the day, as you said, the PO ended up chasing a lot of the lack of clarity and being busy because of that, which leads me to the other insight is that if a team is late, sometimes it's the team, but most often it's the system around the team that makes the team late.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I mean, I don't always recommend that kind of confrontational approach. You need to have some kind of insight into what relationship do you have with your PO. Will he be able? And I really needed to kind of shake him up a little bit, just tell him, because he was running around super nervous, emitting this super nervous energy. And I wasn't sure if I could actually reach out to him, if I would give him some friendly, maybe you should do it like this. Have you thought about that? So I decided to shake him a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that is necessary with love, obviously.
Obviously.
not anger or hate. No. All right. But now we turn our attention to the opposite, the mirror image of this, which might have been, Lena, the best product owner you've ever worked with. So describe them for us.
So at the time, I was working with a website, an offshore team. The website needed a more advanced search function because you could only search for the super basic things. It was barely functional, and people were not using the search either. We could tell from the statistics from the website. So we got a requirement from our stakeholders. I still remember these two sentences because we had two sentences. And the sentences were, I want an advanced search like Google. And that was it. And we tried to kind of to get her to give us more. Like, but what things do you want to search for? But she was super stressed. She was running around and she didn't give us any more than that. She said, okay, you have to work with like Google. You do that. And of course, when you have something as fluffy as Google, you need to visualize, or you need to kind of, is this what you want? So we decided to use Elasticsearch that we had just started collaborating with, but we had like no idea what it could do. So we sat down with the Elasticsearch team that we had, and we created, there's probably a good UX name for this, and I apologize for not knowing it, but I call it a clickable wireframe. Basically a mock-up of the web page that we had. We added the functionality that we thought that she wanted, like the buttons or the what can you search for. And we ended up with a final product, or a clickable wireframe that almost looked exactly like our current web page, because there are tools that can make this thing look amazing. And then we finally got her into a meeting room. We presented her with the clickable like wireframe. I think we even sent it to her in advance. Like, is this what you want? Is this like? And she was clicking around. She was giving feedback, and like we changed a few things. We gave it to the team. The developers came with feedback. We had a lot of like feedback rounds, and because of that super clear wireframe, we ended up with delivering, like, I think even in a shorter amount of time, with almost no questions, because the developers could just see this is how it's supposed to work. So that the PO she was a genius. That was super good, getting the clarity that the team required and handling her stakeholder at the same time that didn't have time to give more details than that.
And that actually reminds me of one thing. Like, one of the core aspects of Agile is to deliver value early and often. Now, in this case, you did it through a clickable wireframe, which wasn't actually running product, but it was running enough to get the feedback you needed to clarify what was needed to be delivered. And I think that's one of the essences that I think, when product owners get this, they are worth their weight in gold, because they can help the team so much by just talking to the right people, whether it's customers or stakeholders, and getting that direct feedback.
Yeah. And I think that enabled the discussions that we talked about earlier the week. We enabled the right discussions to take place both with the stakeholders and the team members. And thus the result of the advanced search when we launched it was pretty good. I mean, we had people started using the search functions, and we, of course, made it better as we went.
Absolutely. That's a great story of how a simple technique of visualizing something in practice can give you so much feedback. And for those of you that might be in the same situation, you can even do this easier, which is to just use paper mock-ups and show it to stakeholders, because you get a lot of feedback also from lo-fi prototypes.
Yes, I had a situation where I was working with paper, and I even had my stakeholder after that. She was like pressing the imaginary button on the paper to see if something would happen. It didn't.
Absolutely. That was a great story, Lena. Thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end, but before we go, do share with us, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
I share some things on LinkedIn, actually. I think that's the place to look at.
Absolutely. And we'll put the link on the show notes so that people can easily find you on LinkedIn. It's been a pleasure, Lena. Thank you very much for your generosity with your knowledge and your time.
Of course. And I want to wish everyone that listens congratulations for choosing one of the best professions that you could have done. Good job.
Amen. One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over. But there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.